Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have a very special guest with us, the founder, innovator of Freebowler, world's first non-electric bowling machine for cricket. Pratik, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shikhar. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
It is absolutely a pleasure to have you. Pratik, tell us about your early days, your days when you were playing cricket.
hmm Yes, like a lot of kids here in India, crazy about cricket. So I was definitely one of those kids, who picked up a bat and the ball, and then cricket just happened to me. But along with that, what really also inspired me was, of course, my parents also came from a strong sporting background. My mom, she was an athlete during her college days, so that was kind of in my DNA. And my father had also played some kind of representative cricket at club level. He was a big sport cricketing fan as well, so that was a part of it. And of course, growing up with KL Rahul, who's currently on the Indian national team. So I and KL Rahul, we played a lot of cricket together growing up since the time we were like 2 years old. And we played together till we were like maybe 9, 10. And obviously he was good at what he was doing, so he wanted to make it to the big stage, but I was still connected with the sport. So kind of growing up with a superstar, he already had it in his DNA as well. So that kind of being a family blood relation. So that also was a part of my growing up as well. So that kind of how it all started.
Interesting. So you said KL Rahul is a blood relation. How is he related to you?
He's in fact my first cousin, my mom's elder brother's son.
Okay, very interesting. In fact, all this while I did not know that KL Rahul was related. It was only when I was at Ashwin's office that this came up, and I was quite surprised because we'd had multiple conversations in the past when I was at SG, and I remember you coming over. I think it was probably your first trip up north, business-wise, when we had met for the free bowler.
Oh yeah, that was in fact my first trip, even business and otherwise. So yeah.
Right. All right. Interesting. Okay. So, coming to your education, you went and did your master's in entrepreneurship in the US, and then you chose sport, and then the sport of cricket to kind of utilize the knowledge and the expertise that you gained in the US. So, what were your options when you were picking up, a career after you finished your master's?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, just to add to your point on growing up with KL Rahul, I kind of, maintain the, keep it very humble and very low profile with my association with KL Rahul, just because, I respect him so much as a player. And then, we would also want to grow as a company independently. So, having come from that background early on, in the sense that, engineering, I did my engineering, and I took a break 1 year off to actually figure out what am I going to do, the sense that do I continue to play professional cricket, do I continue to do something on my own, or I always had at the back of my mind I have to go out, venture out new things, especially in a country like United States, learn and pick up skills so that I can come back. Always wanted to come back home and do something on my own. So I was looking for this combination of, all right, I come from a sporting background, I want to do something on my own, but I definitely knew I couldn't be a professional athlete. So I was just in that process, in that phase, and then I came across this course, and then I joined the course. So my options were, pretty basic, in the sense that I knew I definitely wanted to take the sports route, but whether it was an act as an executive or an entrepreneur, or something in middle was just an option, or rather a choice to a decision to make rather. So I took part in the operations, logistics, and sponsorship department in the first ever cricket event in the United States, which was organized by Sachin Tendulkar and Shane Warne, Cricket All Stars, which
Oh,
took place
interesting. Oh,
in
you
New
were
York.
part of that.
Yes, I was a part of it. It was in New York, Houston, and California. So I was kind of always revolving in that space, in terms of trying to figure out how this industry works, and what are the roles and responsibility that kind of resonates with my expertise and competencies. So I did my homework, and that kind of I found that opportunity to grow the sport in a slightly different way than it's been done before. Because cricket is a huge sport; it's the world's second most popular sport, but it is also traditional in a lot of ways. So I did found out that opportunity to innovate in this space. So that kind of how I figured I yeah, navigated myself through the field.
Interesting. I a, a few of the things that the route that you took, although I did not study to be an entrepreneur or study marketing in my education days, but I also did come from a similar background as I was playing tennis. And when I realized that I couldn't make it to the pro level, that I had to, get back to education. It always seemed like the natural route would have been to be associated with the sport in some way or the other. But of course, tennis is comparatively much smaller in the country. So cricket happened for me, and of course, I continue to kind of be as close as possible to sport, if not tennis. So I think that's a very natural thing for a sportsman to do, and someone who's really passionate about sport per se.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, it kind of yeah fits into one being I mean, sport teaches a lot of things which some of the other corporate institutes or entities might sometimes miss out on. So being in the sports field is kind of gives you that, it empowers you to be on your own, independent, try new things, be innovative, experiment, and the networking part, everything. I mean, like naturally you have to speak to a lot of people, be open about your chances, and just interacting with coaches or managers or other co partners to kind of build an identity for yourself. So the kind of all those things maybe ties in together, and that's why sportsmen tend to follow that space.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to the next one. Uh, you're a celebrated entrepreneur, in the sports industry. The our the Indian sporting space is quite traditional, and innovation like yours does attract eyeballs, and you've had your share of media attention also. Uh, we've seen a video of Freebowler that went viral with Brute, I think, the platform. So take us through some of the high points that you and your company has gone through over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure about the celebrated part, but I will take the innovation part of it because as you understand it, it's not easy in a country like India, where for there's the startup space or the entrepreneurship space, or just in general the innovation space is now getting better. Especially coming from a traditional, we didn't come from a tech background like the Swiggies or the Zomatos or Ubers or Olas, who take the capture the limelight, and of course they totally deserve to. But we were slightly going backwards in terms of developing and inventing a non-electric portable ball thrower. So maybe being on the two extreme ends, where the world is moving too much towards the tech focus side, and we were like completely on the opposite end. Maybe gave us had that advantage. At the same time, it was also solving a real need in the marketplace. So maybe the attention was kind of happened just by chance. And yeah, I mean, we have had our share of highs. Definitely, some of the media attention we have got. Of course, onboarding Ashwin, working with Ashwin at various capacities. I mean, just that for us was the biggest high we have ever had in our lives, at least for us at Freebowler as a young team. Because of course, I have met with KL Rahul, but they never really got a share, chance to share the same space, at least in business wise or sporting wise. It was more very family related, but having to share the same space with Ashwin on a cricket field, getting inputs, insights into developing this product further. He introduced us to the Tamil Nadu Ranji team, and then we had a session with the Tamil Nadu Ranji team. So that was the highest. I mean, like nothing comes closer to Ashwin calling us on a maybe a Thursday evening, and then wanting us to be with the Tamil Nadu Ranji team Friday early morning. Was kind of, we made the trip all the way from Bangalore to again down south, even south than Chennai. It was like 700 kilometer trip. And yeah, I mean, it was all worth it. That for us, has been the biggest high. Of course, press conference with Ashwin and couple of notable, media mentions like Brute and MTV gadgets. It's still by far the highest viewed, sports related tech gadget episode. And for us also at Freebowler. So yeah, those things have been our yeah highest points in the last 2 3 years.
You mentioned that you had to, at a very short notice, travel to Chennai from Bangalore. I think you're known for hitting the ground running, or the road running, because I know that this one time you took a rented car in Delhi, I think, and then you were traveling using that car within Delhi NCR and also came to Meerut. And the other time you brought the car all the way from Bangalore. So you've really had your I mean, I don't know if it about the enjoyment of travel, or was it purely being functional about doing things?
It's a combination of both, honestly. One strategically, I mean, if you look at the logistics associated with, our machine is pretty heavy in the sense that it, weighs around 25, 26 kilos. It needs to have its own space. And then you need to have people to, carry it around to different places. So if we were to, travel via air or train, we still have to have those nodal points. We still have to keep, switching different modes of transportation. And then we feared, what if the product got damaged and we only had one, and then we didn't want to take any chance because we traveled so far. And then if we were not able to fulfill the needs of, it could be a marketer, distributor, or somebody who's interested in buying business meetings. So we just didn't want to take any risk. It was strategically played out that way. And then of course it also, if you look at the cost budget of the entire thing, it also was a cost saving part of it. And of course, yeah, definitely passionate about driving and just going around the country. It's just it's workation. It's work plus vacation. You still get to stop at places, refill yourself. So yeah, it's a combination of all.
Okay. How are the initial days of developing the machine and also the business for you? Take us through which year was this, and how did you guys progress? Because you said there were highs, but there are sometimes lows that do not come out in public's eyes, and that's how. I mean, there's a saying that you should not always believe what the marketing communication is. There is a lot that's happening in the background. So tell us a little about the initial days of the innovation and how you guys progressed in the business along the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had our, again, share of highs and lows. It's just common with every startup or a business just in general. So yeah, in that regard, and of course, when we started out, just the idea of it, obviously, me being in the United States, spending some time with the cricketers there, trying to understand the space. So that was a fun part, because at the same time, I was also doing my final year master's thesis. And here in India, we play cricket day in and day out. But in the United States, cricket is more of a recreational sport than a mainstream sport. So people live far apart. I couldn't travel. I couldn't play cricket every day like we used to here in India. So I was like, why don't I buy a bowling machine for myself? Keep it with me, have my friend use it. So I was just looking to buy an inexpensive bowling machine. At the same time, I thought a non-electric bowling machine would also have existed. And to my surprise, I just couldn't find anything online, because I was planning to play cricket or practice cricket in my garage or backyard, which didn't have access to electricity. So I was just looking to buy something inexpensive and non-electric, and just that didn't exist. So tying that in with my semester or thesis, and experimenting that idea and proposing that to our professors, and then they also getting on board with that idea, was a good phase to begin with. Because I didn't really think about the business side of things. It was just an idea. I was just excited about it. And then soon after that, got some funding from a local government organization. We had formed the company. So those days, it was still early, first 6 months into just the ideation phase of it. We didn't really have a product to show it off to people. It was just a proof of concept, or maybe a mock-up or prototype. We were just playing around with it. And then, we didn't have the pressure. And then, 6 months passed after that. And then I had to take some really big decisions, like moving back to India, to start working with manufacturers, to show it off to people, because here in India it's a mainstream sport. You would get more validation. So those decisions, again, with my personal life, because yeah, everybody goes to United States to spend some time, make some money, and come back to India if it allows. So having to deal with that, and yeah, I mean, those were some of these tough decisions to make after the first 6 months. And then 6 months passed after that. So we were like 1.5 year into the process of ideation, and then we still didn't launch the product, and then people didn't have it in their hands. We were not generating revenue or anything like that. So those phases were like we started to question ourselves as to where is it going. All right, people are liking the idea of it. There's a need for a product like this, but then we are not really getting anywhere with this product because we were just like too much thinking about getting the product right, getting the perfect product, which never existed, which never will exist anyway. So we had to rethink our strategy, and then all right, we should just get a product in the people's hand, irrespective of whether it's a right product or not. And then the product and the company just builds itself. So we had to, I mean, like we were young, we didn't get that advice, or maybe we were not looking for that advice, but somehow we got back ourselves on the track. And yeah, that kind of, those early days were tough. And then we launched the product, and then it exceeded our expectations. It went viral on social media platforms. We put some money behind it in terms of Facebook, Instagram ads, and whatnot. Gathered a lot of eyeballs, and Ravichandran Ashwin happened. He saw us on one of these platforms, and he approached us, and a lot of things like that happened. A lot of media attention. So it was like the snowball effect. And of course, even after launching the product, we have had our own share of running the business, the hardware business side of things. Hardware is hard.
Right. On the Ashwin note again, if I remember it correctly, you said that Ashwin actually approached you to be associated in some way. Tell us a little about how that went.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting in the sense that last 2 years, LinkedIn have once Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, LinkedIn has got a new look. So a lot of people come on board on LinkedIn. So we do see a trend and pattern where professional athletes are also now becoming very active on LinkedIn and trying to network and grow their personal brand and also their businesses and whatnot. So Ravichandran Ashwin was also early in that space compared to some of the other cricketers 2 years ago. And then he happened to see our product, or the news of launching our product on LinkedIn. And then yeah, he direct messaged me on LinkedIn. I mean, like till then I didn't really believe it was Ashwin or any professional cricketer using a platform like LinkedIn to actually send somebody like us a direct message. So I was like, I was just trying to play this game. I was just like going back and forth, and then he immediately he said like, one of our managers will contact you. And I was like, okay, maybe. And then even less than a minute, I got a call from an unknown number, and then that unknown number happened to be really Ashwin's manager. And Ashwin's manager, he was like, Ashwin is interested in learning more about the product. Why don't you guys come down to Chennai, and then we'll see the product. We'd love to get a demonstration of it and see how it goes from there. And we were like, can we get a chance to meet with Ashwin? And his manager was like, of course not, because this is still very early. How the space works. It's not easy for international cricketers to meet with newcomers, be it anybody, cricketer or otherwise. So
but did you have a product, physical product in place by then?
Yeah, we had. I mean, we had launched the product. We had made a few sales, not much, but few people had already bought it. So that's kind of how it all started. We went to Chennai. His manager, loved the idea of it, concept of it. People at his cricket institute liked the product, and then that immediately helped us get in a meeting with Ashwin. That's kind of how it started.
Interesting. You've had a very extroverted style of operation in terms of business. Like I've seen you taking feedback from sports companies, from international players like Ashwin, KL Rahul, of course, coaches. Also, I've seen you, share your learnings through blogs. I read the blog that you wrote about the problems with a hardware company in the current day and age. So tell us a little about this thought process of being really transparent with the industry, so to say. It's not an approach that you see very often, at least in the Indian market. It's more Western, perhaps. But just take us through what makes you that way.
Yeah, thank you once again. Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way. I mean, maybe I did. Honestly, yeah, taking the extroverted approach, or to be very honest, I mean, like, yeah, speaking the truth is, I mean, like, is a real thing. So doing the right thing is the right thing. That's what I believe in. And like you said, yeah, maybe in the Indian conservative approach, not a lot of people are, open or transparent as much as they would have liked to. But I still feel that I mean, startup space as a whole is right now, maybe not right now, but it's still put on a pedestal. Entrepreneurs are looked up like celebrities, but it's not. It's like really tough. So I feel it's our responsibility as a startup owner or an entrepreneur, be it whether you start a successful business or not a successful business. It's important to talk the truth out, because a lot of people look up to us, be it elders or youngsters or people in the same space. So we don't want to create an illusion or a facade like it's all really good, which is not. So I just try to talk the part of the side of the story which is also not all that great. And feedback is great. I mean, like, people do understand. A lot of people out there are very helpful, so it's important to get people. So we take the people first approach, customer first approach. And with blogs, yeah, definitely there is a strategy behind it. Obviously, I do a lot of homework and research. Big shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk. I follow him a lot. His work, be it podcasting or other social media platforms. So he's very good at marketing skills, business strategy, mindset, and things of that nature. So I'm inspired by his work. So blog started from there. First, it was documenting the process, documenting the journey. Whether people read it or not, it doesn't really matter. At some point in the future, there's going to be somebody. All you need is just that one person somewhere. It could be somebody in BCCI, somebody in ICC, or whatever the business deal comes from. It all takes that one person to read it, and then it sets the stage up. So building the credibility and being a thought leader in the space, starting young, starting early, I felt there's a lot of value in it. So it was part of the strategy of documenting the process, and then being a thought leader in the space, and sharing thoughts and ideas and learnings. So that was kind of how the blog started. And now it's also kind of learning and then sharing the learnings. It's kind of because in such times during COVID shutdown, we are now again trying to see how we can maximize the downtime, because I've also seen a lot of, in fact, I was also inspired by your work on Quora. I'm not really active on Quora. I'm trying to understand that space. And also Medium has its own strategy, so trying to be active in that community. And there's guest blogging. You could contribute as an entrepreneur, so that gets some eyeballs, and traction builds, and you can build the audience. So just building a community, and identifying yourself as it's a top of the funnel approach. Somebody, the higher executive in a company reads your blog, and then that could lead to the next business deal, or they could introduce you to somebody else. So it's just trying to play that game.
Absolutely. No, I think I respect you for a lot of those aspects that you mentioned. And sometimes you should just focus on the process. Every action should not have a consequence. So you should just do it for yourself sometimes. And if it falls in place, it falls in place. I mean, even if it doesn't, at least you're doing justice to yourself, and you're bringing out what you feel from within to the people out there. And
yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I mean, like, as I told you, when I first started out, I saw a couple of your active posts on Quora and whatnot. I was like, yeah, I mean, not necessarily everything will have return on investment. Doesn't necessarily have to be. It's just sharing your thoughts, and then there could be somebody who just thinks like you. It's great to connect with like-minded people. So I mean, that's how it happened between us as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So, what is the broader vision for Freebowler going forward? What kind of products can we expect coming out from your innovation center in the future?
Yeah, for us at Freebowler, we consider ourselves as a product innovation brand or rather a sports innovation brand, but then we also don't want to restrict ourselves to product innovation side of things, because when we say innovation, innovation is a very broader word. It could be product innovation, it could be process innovation, just changing the mindset of the people, the culture, the attitude, the tradition. So that's how we want to be associated with in the space. And then just from my own influence from being in the United States, there's definitely a lot of scope for innovation in the cricket space, although it's traditional. But there's a lot of money in the system, or just in general the youth associated. An average age of a cricket fan lover or audience is about 18 years. So cricket market as a whole is pretty young. It's like 18 years in comparison with 50 years, 58 years for baseball or some of the other sports is like a huge difference. So people are now more receptive to newer ideas and thought process and whatnot. So that's kind of how we want to influence the younger generation. So empowering younger generation, because when you played tennis, when I played cricket, we a lot of our thought process was influenced by our coaches, which now we realize was not absolute truth. So there was a lot of policies in that storytelling. I mean, it's just a part of the process, nothing against it, with all due respect. So we kind of want to infuse, breathe new air into that space, kind of empower youth to also make their own independent decisions. It could be with process, it could be with product, as long as they feel good about themselves. So that is the overarching theme. But along with that, products, we have a lot of products in the pipeline. We really want to focus on helping grow the grassroots cricket and the tier 2, tier 3 cities, emerging cricket playing nations. There's a lot of scope in that space. I myself have also been one in the United States, too. Also grew up in a smaller town. I didn't really grow up in Bangalore. I grew up in a town called Tumkur, which is about 60, 70 kilometers from Bangalore,
Right.
which is a tier 2, 3 city. So I understand the space, the infrastructure issues, and the coaching resources being very tight. So kind of want to help that space and create opportunities for players and youngsters to fulfill their dreams, because in this era, anybody can be a professional athlete if they have access to the resources. So that's kind of is a part of our vision.
Hmm. Right. What do you make of the current situation post-COVID? Because the reality is that it will take some time before even the economy gets back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right on the fact that, yeah, of course, every business is going to be affected by this scenario, and then definitely the economy will go back in a few years. We don't really know how much, but and every business will take a beating. But yeah, we are trying to stay ahead of the curve. I mean, like for us, we feel it's an opportunity. We just have to. It's a matter of making that decision, making that taking the leap of faith and plunging into it, because the space we are in with the bowling machine. We could also look at personalized bowling machines. Right now, our product is in kind of a personalized, because not a lot of people will be able to go to practice facilities and get along with a lot of other people. We'll not really see that institutional based training where camps and academies will have like 20, 30 plus people. It'll be more like 2, 3 people, 4, 5 people at the max. So our product kind of fits into that space already. So we want to broaden that horizon and then start reaching out to individual cricketers, because it kind of works in favor of them and also in favor of us, because now these kids are not spending money on attending camps and academies anyway, so they might as well want to invest in something that they can keep it for the rest of their lives. So there's a
Right.
twofold aspect of it. We just have to try and experiment to see if people really think it that way or not. So that's kind of what we are trying to do. We just have to do some market research, just to start trying to run some ads to see if people are interested in buying our product, keeping it as their own personalized training aid, which we think we will, but we don't really know the opportunity, whether it's big or small. So that's one side of things. And then we're also working on a smaller device, which could be used as a knocking machine or a throwdown machine, because everybody is going to stay home for the next, I don't know, like 2, 3 months, 6, 8 months. We don't really know. But if somebody can use it in their front yard or in their wherever they have the space, garage or a hall space or anywhere, so people definitely have at least 6 to 8 to 10 or maybe 12 yard space. So if they can use something as a knocking machine, because it still takes a lot of effort on the arm to throw balls at consistent speeds and whatnot. So that is one space we are exploring, trying to come up with a knocking machine which doubles up as a kind of a bowling machine for kids of 6, 8, 10, 12 years old. So
Right.
that is also getting a lot of good reception. We just tried out some initial thoughts and ideas on social media, and then people jumped on it and people like it. So we got some market validation on that. So we're just trying to experiment with these couple of things, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. We just want to maximize the challenge as the opportunity.
Interesting. Yeah, we've also seen the video of the smaller model of the Freebowler. I think it's quite interesting. We'll try to play it inlaying in this video for our
Yeah,
viewers also, and probably get some comments which validates the idea further.
absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I mean, with the economy taking a beating, and we might go back a few years, like you said. It's sport uh, is a luxury in the country, I think. So it definitely will affect a lot of people. A good thing is, companies like Freebowler and NS Sportec, we are probably out there to gain more than the bigger players, because we're more or less on a level playing field with them. If they are making zero revenue, we're also making zero revenue. So that's the positive side of things, I think. But I think, to be honest, there are going to be a lot of gray areas in the market that front runners would be able to take advantage of. Um, yeah, so we'll have to wait to see how things pan out in the next couple of months or so.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
absolutely. I mean, you
yeah.
made a yeah, very valid point on yeah. I mean, for young companies, yeah, it puts us on a level field on some of the bigger companies. So it's definitely an opportunity now when everybody has to start from scratch. I mean, like the momentum, everything that's been gathered up until this stage is kind of all now gone. So we all have to start everything afresh. So yeah, I mean, like it's a good opportunity. I mean, a lot of people do say from historically what's happened, if companies can make through such high tides, and then companies born during these stages are expected to be successful over the period of the next I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, or the next phase of human generation. So yeah, we'd have to wait and see how that all pans out. So yeah.
Yeah, we've seen in the past. I think this was when the 2008 crisis happened. There were companies like Netflix and some of these new age companies that were born, and then Amazon was born also in a crisis period. So yeah, I mean, these situations do kind of filter out the legacy players in the market also. Yeah, another interesting thought that came to mind while we were having this conversation, that you see a lot of, I don't know if it's come to you, but a lot of sports companies are manufacturing PPE kits. Uh, you know, People are making masks and the protection kits. Uh, what is your thought on whether sports companies, should take this opportunity to maybe diversify out of the sports market? What thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's an interesting thought. Yeah, thanks for asking that. That actually makes me think and then go back and do some homework and research on that. I think it's a very valuable thing to actually consider doing that, because one, it's an extension of the line of business that's already existing for maybe companies like players like SG, who already provide protective training gears for players and whatnot, and a lot of other companies who do. So it could just be one of the other line of products, and then having like a social cause, just trying to help build the economy, or just contributing to what the country can do as a whole, is one aspect of it. And then yeah, it's not really a bad idea to actually consider that, and companies who have the capabilities to do it should actually like go out and do it. I mean, like these companies already have this market built up in terms of they could just be targeting like the cricket players, or sportsmen or athletes who would again want to go out and play at some point. So the target market could just be those people. So and it could be broader. So it's a really an interesting thought to do some
Yeah.
homework and see how we can yeah, maximize this opportunity. And honestly, I'm a little undereducated in this space when it comes to PPEs, the medical kits, and just in general that side of things. So yeah, maybe to yeah, do some homework on that.
No, but that, in the past also we've seen when such circumstances happen, there is a diversification. Now, you mentioned SG. Back in the day when, India started becoming really serious about cricket, they were, SG was in fact the founding company was in fact involved in making leather products. It was not cricket equipment, so to say. So, what I'm probably trying to point also is that it's uh, times like these that sometimes just make you shift completely from what you're traditionally been doing all through. And it's a very hard call, for some. If I try to put myself in a traditional company's shoes and think that all these years, whatever we've done, now you just put a full stop to it and start something afresh. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you made a very valid point once again. I mean, it's a need of the hour, and then sometimes you're reluctant to actually, take that, stride forward and do it. But then eventually, that could be, that could turn out to be the next, big business model innovation inside the organization. So it's just, you're playing, weighing those options and trying to see, what, how best the team can perform under these conditions. So yeah, naturally it wouldn't come for marketers or just in general salespeople and entrepreneurs like us to switch hats and directly start selling something. We are a little undereducated, or maybe that doesn't
correct,
come naturally because
correct.
something like this, talking cricket all day long, we could do it. Talking about business, we could do it all day long. But
Not really good.
so yeah, something like that. It's yeah. I mean, humans are always known to adapt and learn new ways to
Yeah.
sell things.
And so
Definitely.
we should be ready for also, whether we like it or not.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, Prateek, chatting with you. And I must say that I've been personally very fond of you from the time that we met, and the passion that you go about doing your things with. So I wish you all the very best for the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again, Shikhar. Appreciate it. I mean, the feeling is mutual. Definitely, likewise, we look up to you, and not just I and the free bowler. We all look up to you because, the kind of the way you've, built yourself in the last, I mean, we've only seen you for the last 2, 3 years, but then,
Right.
your time with SG and the kind of contributions you have done to the entity in the business model innovation side of things and starting it up. So I mean that's all great learning lessons for us. So just the way you treat people, interact with people, it's good to understand how corporate organizations work. And then yeah, I mean we really respect you in that in a lot of ways. And just trying on understanding early days. Once you get to a position like a big player in the industry like SG, and how people inside SG treat other entities and businesses. So that was a huge eye opener for us. And then outside of that. Working with you with NFS has been a great pleasure in terms of you giving us feedback, good and bad, or I wouldn't say bad, constructive feedback all the time in terms of helping our product grow. And then just having these conversations, it's a very healthy competitive association. I personally share with you. So you being an entrepreneur, and I myself being an entrepreneur, we're kind of in the same boat. So
Right.
it's good to have that company and also keep up the healthy spirit and keep growing ourselves as a brand.
Absolutely. It's indeed a pleasure. Thank you very much, Prateek. I hope we've been able to give some content to our viewers with this session. Thank you very much.